When we think of dolls, our mind conjures images of sweet childhood toys, cherished by children all over the world. But certain sinister objects of evil contain nothing that could be described as innocent. In fact, they could very well be vessels for demonic entities. Made from cloth, wood, or porcelain, most seem harmless at first glance. But the feeling that exudes from these creepy child's toys, and not to mention the fact that some have even been known to curse people who mock them, and even change positions without being touched, leads one to believe that all is not as it would appear.
From a Tickle Me Elmo that reportedly speaks of killing its owner, to a life-size doll made by the Stife Company of teddy bear fame, who has been heard giggling, walking, and even receives apology mail from remorseful visitors who doubted his paranormal power. These 4 creepy haunted toys will make you rethink accepting that antique doll collection your great-aunt wants to leave you. Or at the very least, you'll want to keep them locked away in the attic. For safekeeping, of course.
Thank you for joining us for this weekly installment of the Supernatural Tendencies podcast. I'm Christy.
And I'm Alex.
And this is episode 9, Famous Haunted Dolls. The use of dolls for both inflicting harm to one's enemies and also for sacred spiritual ceremonies to appease the gods dates back into ancient times. It has been said that dolls created in the likeness of Ramses III of Egypt were used to bring about the death of the once loved ruler. And the ancient Greeks were known to have made puppets called kolossos that they used for protection against negative spirits, and also to encourage peace and friendship among the community.
But the dolls, in the strange stories that follow, weren't created to inflict curses or for spiritual protection. They were made to be loved by a child. Although somewhere along the line, that purpose drastically changed. Are these simple childhood toys merely vessels for paranormal energies? Malevolent spirit energies who refuse to move on, but instead live within the safety of an innocent-looking object, one that most people would never suspect of harboring a venomous evil. You be the judge.
Robert Eugene Otto, better known as Gene, came from an affluent family who resided in the paradise-like city of Key West, Florida. By all accounts, young Gene had what many would consider a rather unhealthy obsession with a favorite childhood toy. Always speaking of Robert in the first person, Gene claimed that Robert was in fact a living person, and the young boy refused to go anywhere unless his trusted friend could also join him. And whenever something would get broken, and Gene's parents would ask what happened, the boy would always respond the same way. Robert did it.
Research to have been made by the Stife Company, the maker of the first teddy bear. The frightening object of Gene's attention was a birthday gift from his grandfather in Germany. But Robert was never intended to be a doll. He was most likely one of a set, used as a clown or jester display in a storefront window. Carved from wood, with coal-black eyes and a grimacing smile. Carved from wood, with coal-black eyes and a grimacing smile. Robert the doll and Gene the boy would form a bizarre relationship that would last for Gene's entire life. And although his white and pale blue sailor suit and hat give the illusion of playfulness and charm, Robert the doll is anything but.
As Gene grew into adulthood, his infatuation with Robert only escalated. He would disappear for hours upon end to the attic, where his wife insisted the doll be kept, much to Jean's and also Robert's displeasure. Local school children claimed to see Robert the doll rocking alone in his chair in the upstairs window, and that he would appear and disappear from in front of the window. And Jean's wife would often hear the sound of tiny footsteps walking around the upstairs. The sound of faint giggling was also an unexplainable but regular occurrence.
After Jean passed away in 1974, a woman named Myrtle Reuter bought his home, and it seems also inherited Robert. Visitors claimed that whenever anyone would speak ill of Jean, within earshot of the doll, that his face would change expressions, forming a more sinister grin. Robert could also be heard moving around the house on his own, and often giggling as though playing with an imaginary friend. After 20 years of Robert the doll's terrifying antics, Miss Reuter donated him to the Fort East Martello Museum, located in Key West, in 1994.
But Robert's tale doesn't end there. Now kept safely behind glass, he is said to continue his frightening behavior. From evil grins to allegedly cursing anyone who mocks him, Robert's image is sold on everything from t-shirts and coffee mugs to bumper stickers and even replicas of the doll, if you're into that sort of thing. He even receives letters from all over the world, most offering an apology and asking for forgiveness. And in case you're not following enough pages on Facebook, the paranormal star can even be found there too.
1996 was known as the Tickle Me Elmo year. Children all over the world demanded the bright red furry toy. And the Elmo Knows Your Name doll took the market by storm, leaving demand high and supply low. The Bowman family of Lithia, Florida, were thrilled to find one just in time for Christmas for their 2-year-old son, James. The doll is programmed to recite the child's name and also speaks a few other different phrases. Young James was overjoyed with his new gift and took it everywhere with him.
But this newfound joy wouldn't last long. The evil nature of this doll soon became more than obvious. As the young boy played with his toy in the living room, his tired and mentally worn-out mother heard what she thought sounded like her son's Elmo doll, but the words he spoke made her blood run cold. "Kill James, kill James," the toy repeated. Mrs. Bowman immediately inspected the doll and found nothing amiss. Mrs. Bowman immediately inspected the doll, and finding nothing amiss, somehow chalked the incident up to just being fatigued.
But just a few days later, Elmo again began to chant his threatening words. In fact, these were the only words the doll would speak. Angry and extremely fearful, Mrs. Bowman called the manufacturer of the doll, Fisher-Price. The company was shocked to say the least, and were completely aghast at how this could possibly happen. They advised her to remove the toy's batteries and to reset it, stating that it should eliminate any further problem with the toy's frightening vocal statements. But alas, this wasn't to be. In fact, Elmo's threats became even louder and angrier. This time, after another rant-filled exchange, Fisher-Price agreed to give the Bowman family a voucher for a free exchange.
What's creepier than an 111-year-old Robert the doll? A 200-year-old haunted marionette named Letta Me Out. Letta, as she is affectionately called, was first uncovered underneath of a home in Wagga Wagga, Australia. Owner, Carrie Walton, discovered the child-sized doll over 46 years ago and decided to name her Letta because he said it had a gypsy heritage. He gives no explanation as to how he knows this. Walton says that objects around the house are often found to have been mysteriously moved, and child-sized shoe scuffs can be found on the worn wood floors of the house. The source of these being Letta the doll. Walton even claims that the terrifying marionette has even moved in front of guests. Upon consulting with a psychic, Walton says that he feels that Letta is inhabited by the spirit of a young girl who drowned.
The Quesnel and District Museum in British Columbia has many different items on view, but none are more frightening than a badly damaged and well-worn antique doll named Mandy. Dressed in a crocheted bonnet and a tattered dress, Mandy came to the museum in 1991. A woman donated the doll, saying that it was a 90-year-old family heirloom that had belonged to her grandmother. She stated that the fragile-looking doll was already in disrepair, and not wanting it further damaged by her young daughter, she opted instead to give it to the museum for preserving.
Although the director of the museum claimed she immediately felt extremely uneasy around the doll, she agreed to take Mandy. And as part of procedure with new admissions, the toy was taken to be quarantined to test for insect infestation. This involved placing it inside of a sealed plastic bag. If there were any insects present inside the doll, they would escape and become trapped inside, allowing detection. Employees claimed to also feel uncomfortable around the doll, and even swore that they heard the bag that held Mandy rustling as if she was moving. And every morning upon returning to work, they found the room to be a complete war zone. Large objects turned over, and things strewn about as though someone had been in an angry rage. And this happened any time employees left her alone overnight. No explanation could be found, and even more alarming was that the doll would be moved.
Mandy was then taken to be photographed, which yielded some pretty bizarre results. Getting a picture proved difficult, as most of the photos showed abnormally bright areas around her face or a strange blur across the photo. After complaints of feeling uneasy and fearful of the doll from visitors became too much for the museum staff, Mandy was placed further inside the museum and also sealed within a protective glass case. But before this extreme measure was taken, a psychic medium was brought in to hold the doll and attempt to find out the meaning behind the doll's haunting presence.
She uncovered that Mandy was inhabited by a spirit that had endured much sadness and abuse in life, and as the story goes, which no one can be sure whether or not it is fact, involved a young girl who died while holding her favorite doll. The lifeless body of the poor child was supposedly found in an abandoned house by a farmer, who claimed to hear cries of a child. Knowing that the house had been empty for years, he decided to investigate and discovered the little girl, dead, still holding her beloved doll.
Being behind glass hasn't slowed Mandy down. In fact, the strange activity that seems to surround her prompted museum staff to do a little digging, to find out more of the history concerning her origins. After tracking down the woman who originally donated the doll, they were met with the true reason behind her gift. It seems the terrified lady would hear a child crying in the cellar where the doll was kept, and when she investigated, she found the cellar window open and Mandy lying on the floor.
For reasons unknown to the woman, the activity began to increase, leaving her no choice but to get rid of the doll because she was fearful of what might happen. The woman reported that no further paranormal activity has occurred since donating the doll to the museum. Unfortunately, the museum can't say the same.
I remember that when Daryl only half hears you and doesn't listen.
It is literally every time I speak to him. Like, I have just told him something, and then he'll walk away and he'll come right back in, and I'll be like, remember, don't forget that. And he's like, don't forget what? Are you serious right now?
So you can understand how there'd be a difference between listening and hearing, but not reading and speaking.
No, he's stupid. That just...
This is our small talk, so this may be going on in the recording.
Well, I love him. I love him. I didn't marry him for his brains, I guess. He was funny, and he could tell a good story.
Oh.
But if you expect him to come back from the store with milk and bread, it's not going to happen. It's one or the other.
Poor Daryl. Poor Daryl.
Poor Daryl, poor me. And then gets mad at me because he's got to go back to the store.
Do you want to start this small talk a different way, or just how we're starting it?
Huh?
Do you want to start this small talk fade in this way, or do you want to start it different?
That's fine. Yeah. We're going to talk about the dolls now.
Yes, we can talk about the dolls now.
Because I really like this subject.
You do.
I don't know why, though, because these dolls terrify me.
I think that's kind of a natural human thing.
Well, I don't know. I think the Tickle Me Elmo is probably like at the bottom of the list because he's little. I could kick him. You know, what's he going to do? He's Tickle Me Elmo.
Aren't all these dolls little?
Well, okay, now, honestly, are you going to compare, like, Robert the doll to, like, Tickle Me Elmo?
But isn't Robert the doll the size of a small child and not, like, he's not...
Yes.
Okay, but... I don't know. How much bigger is Robert than Elmo?
A lot. Well, Elmo's only, like, what? I don't know, 12...
I'd say it's a solid 14 inches tall, I'd say.
Okay, 14 inches tall compared to how tall... Isn't Robert, like, 3 feet tall or 3.5 feet tall or something?
I didn't see that.
I didn't.
It's a 3-foot doll, and I didn't read that?
No, I don't think I put it in there, but I'm just guessing. I mean, just based on the height of a small child.
That doll's hugging your face and just cutting off airflow.
That's what I'm saying.
He's loving you literally to death.
I'm getting the images of the movie Poltergeist with the clown.
Yeah.
When it, like that's.
But that one doesn't extend. There's a little bit of a difference because this doll doesn't necessarily extend.
Well, he doesn't need to. He just walks into a room and you'd hear his little tiny shoes.
And just face hugs you.
Oh my God. I'd have a heart attack. I'm sure. Like there are just some things that, like, no matter how ridiculous, like you with the chupacabra. Okay, that's me with Robert the doll.
Okay.
Like, what, on those nights when you're just like, you lay in bed, like for me, I'll put my hypnosis meditations on, or I like the sound of like the rain, like thundering rainstorms or something, it really helps me to sleep.
Yeah.
So I put that on, and hopefully it's a good night where Daryl's not snoring, and I don't want to suffocate him with the pillow. I probably shouldn't say that because then if something accidentally happens and he dies in his sleep, they're going to be like...
You have to come up with makeshift signs that say Robert this way, and it's like over your head, but the arrows are pointing at Daryl.
Yeah. Yeah. Here he comes. But I'll be literally, I'll be laying there, I'll be like, oh, this bed's so comfortable. I'm so relaxed. Daryl's not snoring. Oh, listen to the sound of the hypno. Wait a minute. Did you hear that? Yep. Yep. It's Robert. It's Robert. Daryl, get up. It's Robert. But I mean, like, really,
in theory, that's a horrifying situation.
It is. Now, see, I'm not going to sleep tonight. Guess who else isn't going to sleep tonight?
Daryl.
If I'm scared, we're both scared. We're both staying up. It's gonna be a night. You might as well go make some popcorn.
You're just throwing Daryl to the cloth made for children wolves that is Robert.
That's a marriage.
You got facehugger Robert taking out Daryl in his sleep, and you're fine as long as it's not you.
Did you just call Robert a name?
She just rolls over. She just rolls over and covers her face up.
Now we gotta write an apology letter.
What was that movie? Was it Darkness Falls?
I haven't seen that.
Where it came out maybe the early 2000s with the tooth fairy, but the tooth, like how like you couldn't wake up. How like you put your tooth under your pillow. And you can't wake up because then the tooth fairy won't give you your money or whatever, right?
Oh, yeah.
This took that to like the horror degree where like if you woke up, she killed you.
That's not right.
Yeah, so like you had to cover your eyes up, and if you looked at her, like she'd go like freak out, and like kill you, make you go insane anyway, I think. But regardless, that'd be like...
So they took an innocent little child's...
You've never seen Darkness Falls?
No.
You'll have to watch it. It's along the vein of those early 2000s movies that were like one-offs. You don't talk about...
Yeah, kind of.
Or something. Jeepers Creepers is a bad example, but Jeepers Creepers could have easily been one of those.
I was thinking Boogeyman or the Boogeyman or whatever that one was. Do you remember that one?
No, I don't remember that one. But that was my first thought was like, oh, again, The Hills Have Eyes. Not The Hills Have Eyes. The other one that was kind of like that. Because that was an old remake. The one with Eliza Dushku?
I don't think I've...
It was in West Virginia. Wrong turn.
I haven't seen that one either.
No, but that one they end up
I don't
doing.
really watch those kinds of movies.
Yeah. Well, they end up doing like 4 of those too. So again, that's a bad example. But just as easily could have been just one. I don't think that was a remake, was it? Wrong
Yeah, I
Turn?
don't watch stuff. If I watch stuff like that, then Daryl doesn't get any sleep, and then
Laying awake.
just bad for everybody.
Okay, so we're starting off with Robert, I assume. So that's kind of out of schedule for what the narrative was. But let's talk about Robert, because I remember hearing about Robert a long time ago. I think it might have been on, was it like a Ripley's?
That's
or
what I was thinking, yeah.
What was the other one with the guy at the museum? Something at the museum? Mystery at the Museum?
Yeah.
Was it on there?
Well, I don't. That probably that show's been on for quite some time.
Yeah, it might have been on one of those, but they kind of got some footage of it, and they kind of told the story of it. How like, and this may be a reoccurring thing across dolls, but they laid like the flour down.
I
on
was
the floor,
just gonna say that. Yeah.
right? And they saw the
Tiny little rubbered footprints.
yeah, when they came in the next morning.
No.
Yep. I think this one strikes like severe fear into the hearts of many people, being the dolls. Like, I should say, like, I should specify, like, adults mainly. Like, as children, for some reason, children, like with the Barbies and those kind of things. I mean, these things are geared towards children. And every now and then you'll find a child who doesn't like a doll. But that's like most adults, like, get that thing out of here. Like, if they're done playing with it, just like, put it away. Because no.
There's a big difference, though, from something like, I don't know. Like, have you ever heard of a Barbie doll? Like, Barbie and Skipper pissed off or so. I mean, like, no, you've never heard of anything like that before.
No, it's usually like those porcelains.
Oh my God!
And then for a while there was those videos on YouTube. I'm not even claiming to know the veracity of how true they were, but they were like the top 10 creepiest videos of all time. And then like number 4 was always like the camera panning over like a whole line of a porcelain doll collection, and then like one would go blink and its eyes would move.
Like, did you see that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was always like that. So especially those, maybe it's, I don't know, for me it is the porcelain dolls, because there are a few like older people that still have like those 40 or 50 random freaking porcelain dolls. Like, why do you need them?
I saw, it was one of the ghost paranormal investigation shows. I can't remember which one it was. And so they went to investigate this house, and this woman, oh my God, like every available space of wall space, and then she had them piled up against the wall, like on shelves and everything. Like every single room was like that. And so they came in, of course, they're like, well, you've got a butt ton of ghosts in here. Well, it's from the dolls. That's where they're all hiding. You can start with that creepy Robert the doll over there in the corner.
We got off subject again from Robert, but now that you brought that one up, I think there was another one in like Louisiana where there's like this small island. Is this another one of your shows that you watched? There's like a small island, and we're talking like, like in the middle of like a river or something, how you'll have those small little islands.
Yeah.
It was like that, but I don't think it was on a river. It was like in the bayou, but like a small island. And there's like remnants of dolls everywhere, like hung from trees and everything else. Super creepy little island, like Doll Island or something.
Is it in Louisiana? I didn't think it was in Louisiana.
I thought it was in the marsh, and of course maybe that's just like stereotyping to me that if it's in the marsh, it's gotta be Louisiana. But I mean, that one was creepy, but I think they did a whole episode on that. So I don't know if anybody else has done that, but that one is really memorable to me. But so let's stop getting off track, because apparently we really like dolls. Going back to Robert, like we said, I had seen it from one of those shows, the episode from one of those shows that they had done on it. But really, if you look at pictures of Robert, it's kind of like, it wouldn't be exactly burlap. It's like a cloth, but it's so like mundane now because it is kind of an older doll. I mean, I think the actual boy Robert died in 1971. I think this doll was probably from the 20s or 30s.
Probably approximately, yeah.
Roundabout-ish. So early to mid 1900s. And for some reason, anything from that time period is still kind of weird to me. I don't know why.
What I'm curious about is, okay, so they're based on the research that they've done, they're pretty sure that Robert, like we had said, was made by the Steiff Company. And so the Steiff Company got started in Germany. Mm-hmm. And they're what really kind of propelled them into fame is, I think it was Teddy Roosevelt, who that's who they named the teddy bear after.
So really the early 1900s.
Yeah. So, and that's who made the first teddy bear
Mhm.
was the Steiff Company. So if Robert was in fact made by them, and was never intended to be a toy and was used as a store window display, how did he get to Gene,
The boy.
yeah, and
Boy
how did the
in Key
grandfather
West.
buy or get a hold of Gene? And did he get him from, some random store?
Hmm.
Or, how did Robert the doll actually become haunted?
Yeah. And one of the things that, because you actually wrote this side of the script, one of the things that I vaguely had heard, and maybe I'm just making this up, but did they not have like some type of servant woman? And maybe, again, this may be a stereotype of these dolls. Wasn't there like a Caribbean born servant woman there?
I didn't find anything about
And I
that.
thought there may have been stories of like her, because he was an only child,
Yes.
her wanting to have him a friend.
Oh,
So she had kind of.
put a voodoo something on there,
I
or
was trying to steer away from voodoo because I don't want to sound like the stereotypical, like using the
isn't
word
that
voodoo.
what they practice in Haitian though, or Caribbean? Isn't
Well,
that voodoo?
Haiti would it be like a combination of like hoodoo and Santeria,
Oh, possibly, yeah.
but but a lot. I mean,
I wasn't meaning that in a disrespectful term. I just
no, I know.
legitimately went. It's some type of.
I get it. I
Did
was
she
just
use some type of magic or
Mhm.
incantation?
It's just with the area. I didn't want to jump to the stereotypical thing without for sure knowing. And now, because since you didn't even read about that, and this is just going off my memory, of that story, I thought there was something like that. I don't know. I just didn't want to jump straight to voodoo, but yeah, essentially voodoo.
That would be a plausible explanation. Or
Because if not, if it was just a storefront piece, what kind of activity would have been exposed to?
that's what I'm saying.
To make like this energy enter it.
Or was it totally non-related to anything like that? Did the doll, when it came to the young boy Gene, was there something in Gene's personality, or that Gene, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Something Gene himself had absorbed that was then transferred to this doll.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think obviously I think there's definitely there have been too many accounts of people having negative experiences with this doll. So this is one of them that I am more inclined to say is definitely believable.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of the longer lasting.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
still around.
over 100 years now.
Yeah, that's still around. You can actually go visit. I believe you can still go visit it in Key West,
Well,
in
I'm
that
not
museum. I might, if I get down there, I would. I'd go see it.
But that's fine, but I'm not going to go with you.
I think too, still kind of getting started in this discussion. I think it's a kind of an overarching idea for anything to be that is shaped like a person, to kind of have a supernatural power to it, like a mandrake root, or I mean, if you're walking in the woods and you find something shaped like a person, it's immediately identifiable. Oh, that looks like a person, so automatically, like anything that's shaped like a person kind of has this air of supernatural to it, and whether or not it's good or bad. However, but I think automatically with dolls being that image of a person, either vague or like very detailed, I think it kind of segues into that natural subconscious either mistrust or just recognition that, hey, that's a person, but it's not a person. So even if we want to go into the supernatural energies portion of it, a soul or energies coming from a human body could easily go into another easily recognizable vessel, which could ultimately be a doll. I mean, and they're just mass manufactured. I mean, of course, after the Industrial Revolution coming about, a little more easily than before that, when you had to put all the effort into one doll, and that's kind of why it was handed down, because of the effort put in. But now you have just mass made vessels essentially. So I mean, it's not totally out of the thought process, of that energy going to another recognizable source that's not already taken. Is that the right phrase? Taken?
Yeah, yeah.
Occupied?
I think that I think that it's funny. I think actually that that these souls that have for whatever reason, good, bad, whatever, Um, I don't think that there is really any more, I guess, possibility that they would inhabit or, take up residence in a doll versus anything else. I mean, it could be a TV or it could be a bedroom dresser. I don't think but I think that you tend to hear less, or like a soda can. Why couldn't a soda can house some type of energy?
Is it
Well, it could.
is it also some idea of the importance and longevity of the object and how long a person is willing to keep it around too, right? I mean,
That's probably a good
like
possibility too.
a soda can could have an energy in it, but how long do you tend to keep a soda can around before you pitch it? TVs, I mean, I could see that a long time ago when you had the huge box entertainment centers that like you paid an arm and a
Like when people
length
kept
for,
them for like
and you kept them, yeah.
20 years.
But now you get one of the Vizios or the Samsungs, and it's honestly cheaper just to buy a new one than it is to replace parts in it. So
Yeah.
the exchange, the overturn of some of these items that could in theory house energies, but you just don't keep them around.
Okay, so then do you think that is a conscious thought of an energy? Like, whoa, that's a pop can. If I go in there, she's going to throw that pop can away in 2 minutes.
Well,
Or do you think it's just more of when that pop can gets thrown away, the energy goes with it, and then it wakes up and realizes, I'm at the landfill?
okay, let's look at it like this, especially since this is not my forte. I'm going to go out there, right? In my understanding of energies, right, and especially with the way the world works, and especially with a lot of older religions and beliefs and practices, like in the indigenous cultures, you have this exchange of energy. You have this balance to where you can give a little bit and you take a little bit, give a little bit and you
Absolutely.
take a little bit. So in theory, if you're a cognizant energy looking for a vessel, then wouldn't it be more worth your while to put yourself into something that someone does have affection or love or understanding for, unlike a soda pop can where you use it for however long you're drinking what's inside and then it's
Yeah.
pitched. But if you are put inside of a special pillow that someone loves so much that it's dirty and raggedy and they just can't get rid of it because it's their favorite pillow, that is an emotional attachment in itself. Besides the fact that you put your energy, if you're, like I said, if you're this cognizant energy and you go into it, now you're something else along with that natural just kind of love. So I think it would make it easier, even if you don't recognize that.
Yeah.
Maybe within the realm of energies, I don't know if you want to consider that like a parallel universe that's operating aside from us. And I don't mean to sound condescending, but what I'm saying is this is not stuff I think about every day. But the idea is that there's this whole other like non-visual atmosphere around us that we're not seeing that is just full of, and in my mind it'd be like bright lights, bright lights, bright lights, bright lights being energies. Maybe you would tend to gravitate towards other areas that have that bright light. And let's be honest, when we love something, we tend to put our passion into it, and going with that indigenous the indigenous belief of the give and take of the energies. Maybe that's kind of like a beacon for things.
Almost definitely. It would have a higher vibrational energy to it, which
because
in turn
you put
attracts-
your energy investment,
Yes.
even if it's in something that just sits around. There's a word for that. Inanimate object. You put your energies into this inanimate object, and maybe you're still giving this energy. And don't think that I'm saying that you can make something come to life or give something a soul or energy that it could conduct itself by just loving this microphone that I'm talking into. It's not exactly what I'm saying.
No, but everything holds energy. Everything has energy. And everything that we can see and even what we can't see has energy. Science has proven that. So that's not something that we're just theorizing. That's an actual fact.
And then furthermore, with these dolls, especially with the children, I know there's a common thought that children tend to operate at a higher energy frequency.
Yes, absolutely.
Which opens up the spectrum of discussion for what children can and can't do, or why they do or do not do things more than adults do. So if you have this higher functioning, higher vibrating, energy being a child,
Yeah.
giving its love and affection and passion towards whatever it may be, in this case especially throughout olden times, being a doll, then you can actually see that having a little more bigger energy footprint for another energy source to be able to come to. There you go. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the overall thing of this whole discussion, which makes the next one a little odder in Tickle Me Elmo, would you say?
I'm not scared of the Elmo. I mean,
Not being scared of it, but
I'll keep everybody in the house awake over Robert the doll, but Elmo, I will punt Elmo.
well, right off the bat, we have almost a direct contradiction. It goes back to kind of what I was saying before, where we have this mass manufacture of vessels.
Yeah.
But it's almost in direct opposition to my initial my initial thought of this whole thing, in that back in the day we didn't have these mass produced things that machines making other machines, essentially like this Tickle Me Elmo. When a family wanted to make a doll, it was kind of a process.
Yeah.
I mean, you needed materials to make it. You needed to get, and this is all the seamstresses out there, if that's who makes these things. I'm sorry if I get the terminology wrong. You need the needles, and you need the stuffing for it. It took time and it took effort, and you were doing it for someone who you loved, so you put your own energy into this doll. In stark contrast to the Tickle Me Elmo of the 1990s,
made on an assembly line,
which I remember people getting stormed into Toys R Us over.
Oh,
remember
I
those videos?
That. Oh, yeah.
On the news. Oh, my God.
They went
Furbies were the only other ones that I remember fervently.
Cabbage Patch they did.
That was a little bit before me.
People were boxing
Yep, that was what, mid-'80s?
Yeah.
For those?
Right about,
Yep, I distinctly remember Furbies, and I remember Tickle Me Elmos.
So, okay, coming from this, with the Robert the doll, for example, you've got a 100-year time span there.
Mm-hmm.
Versus the Tickle Me Elmo kind of brings us back to that question. You have a brand new doll right off of the, factory assembly line.
Yeah.
Immediately went to the store. So you have the shortage. So that doll wasn't sitting in that store very long.
The supply and demand.
Yeah, before the parents came
Wouldn't
along,
allow it
bought
to
the
sit.
doll, brought it back home. And then this 2-year-old son, I'm assuming that this 2-year-old doesn't have any reason to, you know what I mean, like whatever. So how is this doll haunted? Was it maybe something in the house? But the parents had never noticed anything before the Elmo was brought in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, with those, if I remember right, with the Furbies, maybe not with the Furbies, they had their own pre-recorded. But didn't you didn't go out and buy a Tickle Me Elmo that said James. Didn't you have to say it James when you did the recording?
Yeah.
Like, press and hold the button and say James. Like, oh, okay, this is good enough. Press James. And then he would go, I love you, James, or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so they had to have done something in the recording process to initially input his name. So there's no way that something else could have happened, another sound or something like that. Let's be honest too. With these, are these at the point for digital recordings in those devices?
I don't know.
I don't remember if they're still
1994, I believe. 96.
It was 96. We definitely had CDs then, so we did have some form of digital media. But in these little programs, were these technically digital?
I don't know.
I don't remember either. But still, when you're augmenting something on the fly like that, I mean, there runs a risk for it, and even if there's
the word kill, that's.
It's definitely.
How would that even?
It's definitely a stereotypical idea of what a haunted doll would say, right?
Yeah. I'm just like, I don't know. Yeah. And then I think the reports of her taking the batteries out or something, and the doll's still playing, or I think I read something about that in one of the articles. I don't know if that is a fact.
So like one-upped itself and still played without the batteries.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think automatically our idea here or our mentality of it's tainted because of the newness of the product, how new the product is.
Yeah.
So I don't want to immediately say that Ms. Bowman's a freaking liar. Because Ms. Bowman, if you're listening,
I know. I would love to know more.
I would love to know more, especially since this was a mass-produced product. Because if you didn't have to input it yourself, I want to know how easily you obtained one that said James. And I also want to know who inputted this. What was the input method then? Because then they're completely... Fisher Price, right? Is completely negating the idea that there couldn't possibly be some type of like audio blurb in it that could be registered to the human ear as sounding close enough to think it's Kill James.
Well, I think that was originally in the transcript, is whenever this happened, she did get a hold of Fisher Price and told them what was going on, and they, for the life of them, could not understand how this could possibly happen.
Yeah.
But I think that's the one thing about this particular case that really bothers me the most. It's not so much about Elmo saying kill James. It's more about Fisher Price not immediately offering, oh my God, and here, take another Elmo, or, have a Teddy Ruxpin,
Well,
anything.
well, I think that this was still in the time before like the Sue Happy craze happened. I mean, when did that? And this is just in my mind. The Sue Happy craze
Well, but I don't
happened.
think she threatened to sue. I think she was just, making them aware of the problem. And they didn't even want to give her a replacement for it, though. So I think that's what really bothers me the most about this case is not so much about this potentially haunted Tickle Me Elmo, but it's more about the fact that Fisher Price, whenever Mrs. Bowman contacted them, and said, "Hey, I got this doll, kill James," that instead of they didn't immediately offer her a replacement, a Teddy Ruxpin, anything, So that I think that really.
Yeah, but how many stories do you think they have of people calling in with ridiculous reasons why they need another one?
I'm sure they don't have many where someone calls in or calls them up and says, I got a Tickle Me Elmo that's saying kill James or kill my son, kill
Yeah,
my son."
but if no one else has called in with similar complaints, and even if they did, that would still sound kind of weird. Your mind as whatever executive or whatever height in the bureaucracy of Fisher Price that you would go would think, "Yep, it's haunted. We need to get that ghost out of that house."
Wait a minute, your mind or my mind?
I think in logical minds. Let's be honest. I mean, if you're making a product that is a higher supply than demand and you're making dollars hand over fist and people are killing other people for this product,
True.
you don't think that you're going to get at least a few calls, get some harebrained ideas? Mine was covered in poop. I need another one. Like, to get a second one because...
I gotta say, though, that Mrs. Bowman handled that by leaps and bounds better than I would have, because had I bought you or your brother a Tickle Me Elmo and it started saying some crazy stuff like that, if I'd have called up Fisher Price and they would have said, we're not going to give you a replacement doll. All right. Where do you live? No, never mind. I'll look it up in the phone book, because I think we still had phone books back then. I'm gonna bring Elmo to your house,
This
and you
seems
can
like
just have him.
this seems like an act of domestic terrorism.
I don't care. You got 14 kids? I don't care.
Okay, so it's enough about Tickle Me Elmo and the
I'm just
lengths
saying.
the lengths you would go
I'm just
to make sure they knew.
I bet you any mother out there that will hear this podcast would be like, you know what? I'd do the same damn thing. You ain't gonna stick me with no killer Elmo. That ain't gonna happen.
Except for Ms.
Because
Bowman.
I'm from Chicago, okay? And if I'm from Chicago and I'm scared of a Tickle Me Elmo doll,
There's a lot worse things in Chicago you should, in theory, be worrying about than your Tickle Me Elmo.
like a 200-year-old haunted marionette named Let Me Out. I love that name, though. We're going to have to, we will put this on our page, a picture of these dolls. And I really must say, as if Robert isn't frightening enough, if you're scared by Robert the doll, you do not want to see Let Me Out.
I haven't seen her.
Oh my God.
Is it scary?
Oh my God. Yeah. It's creepy.
This one, maybe it's just the lack of kind of information, at least that we've delved into. It seems kind of set up. I mean, the guy was like, "Yep, gypsy, yep," and gypsies seem to be kind of the scapegoat for everything that's like weird and cursed. It's a curse, gypsies.
It was gypsies.
Like, does Australia have a high gypsy population?
You
And I
I don't
apologize for saying gypsy, because I do believe that's kind of a slur.
No, but that's what he said. That's.
Yeah, but okay, we won't get into racial terms on the podcast, but just because he said it doesn't necessarily mean...
I didn't know that it was.
I think it is, so I apologize for anybody out there of that affiliation already.
I love gypsies. I think they're awesome.
I think I got corrected one time on saying gypsy, and someone told me what it was, but it was so long ago, and I've not talked about gypsies
I did
since.
not know that.
I believe so, but it just seems like it's like an automatic scapegoat for him to say it was a gypsy doll. Am I wrong?
Well, I don't know.
Like, we don't use gypsies as scapegoats much in the United States, but there may be
That's-
like
yeah, I
a
don't
voodoo.
know. Well, true.
Like sometimes we use voodoo as a scapegoat, like always a bunch of voodoo,
Oh, yeah.
but
That could be.
I haven't really heard them a lot in Australia though. Like in Europe, yeah, like gypsies tend to be the scapegoat. It's a gypsy curse.
But in all actuality, though, if it were a scapegoat, if he's just making this wild outlandish story up, what about his claims that he's had guests over and they have witnessed this doll move?
Yeah, and that could be,
which I bet he doesn't have very many guests over now. Because if I'm at somebody's house and I see a damn doll move, like, I'm not coming over again.
You've lost a friend.
You have lost a friend who, yeah.
But in theory, couldn't you say that of anything? Like, I've had people over and they've seen.
Well, why don't they should name the people. Like, there was my friend Bob and his wife Sue.
Straight leg Fred.
Straight leg Fred was over here, and we were having we were having some chicken and some okra, and I don't know, what do they eat in Australia? I don't know. Shrimp on the barbie? I don't know.
That I won't even go there. You said it.
I don't know.
I think we have one Australian listener. Last time I checked, and I don't know how far they've listened to our podcast, but I hope they don't get to this episode.
I'm just a babbling idiot. I really am not politically correct. I don't know what the hell I'm saying.
You please give us an email.
I'm just stop this right now. Done.
They're just all day just drinking Fosters.
I love Australia. I don't know what I'm talking about. Apparently, I just don't know.
I don't know about the story. I think it's a good story. And sometimes you can get too in detail with the story. I think that might be part of like the giveaway of a liar is when you have too much detail. But when there's not enough,
that's kind of harsh. Like, you don't. I mean, Mr. Walton could be one of the world's best psychics, and he could have communicated with this spirit that's in this doll, and that's how he knows all this stuff.
I'm not saying it's not true. I'm trying to avoid actually calling him a liar.
I'm not allowed to say shrimp on the Barbie, but you could sit here and say that Mr. Walton is making stuff up and he's prone to fibs. I don't think that's at all right.
Maybe it's just because it's a very short story, and like that, maybe it's just short and sweet. That's the way it's intended to be, because I don't know, but
we're going to have to check out the Facebook page. I'm not even going to go to Robert the Doll's Facebook page.
We got way more information and way better stories from Robert and Mandy than we do this one. And
there wasn't a whole lot on this one.
I know. Maybe that just makes it seem a little less believable.
Well.
But okay, let's move on to the better one. In my opinion, vying for the top spot of creepiness for the day.
You think Mandy the Doll is the creepiest?
No,
really?
No, vying for with Robert, not like in the visual sense, not like look at it, it's creepy, but like
it is creepy though. If you've seen it, she's got the quintessential cracked face, and
then why would you question whether or not I thought it was the creepiest?
I didn't say she wasn't the creep. Oh, I'm not saying she wasn't creepy. I'm saying she is hands down, she doesn't beat Robert.
You don't think so?
No. Because again, she's little. She's about the size of Elmo. So, if I hear, I can kick her. And I'm not really if a physical altercation should ensue. You
could drop kick something
I could drop kick Mandy and Elmo. But Robert the Doll is going to put up a little bit more of a fight.
A 3 foot.
And
essentially what? Cornhole bag?
I don't know if I could take him. Because, he is demonically filled.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure I could take him. And I don't really want to find out for sure.
I'll grant you that. But I'm talking about the story as a whole, as in the veracity of the claims. Well, seems a little more.
But see, you could also say that about Mandy the Doll. Because this lady pulls up and she, the only thing she wants to donate is this creepy looking antique doll.
Yeah.
That she is supposedly not wanting to have it further damaged because she has a young daughter. Put it up on a top shelf somewhere. Put it in your bedroom in a box in the closet. See, that's why I should not. That's why I wouldn't run an antique museum.
But didn't she put that in the cellar and she was hearing all those noises and stuff?
Well, yeah, but when she originally dropped it off at the museum, she said that she was donating it, that it was her grandmother's, and that it was already in disrepair, and she didn't want it further damaged because she had a young daughter.
Yeah, when in reality,
was her. Yeah, she wasn't telling the truth.
When in all reality, she was experiencing a lot of crap that she didn't want to deal with anymore.
She was a liar. That's what we call them where I come from. She was a flippin' liar. But that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why I could not run a museum, because if you pulled up with some creepy looking stuff like that, I would be like, no, you don't. Do you just turn it around right now and you just take it right back with you? Because you are not going to bring that in here.
But in all fairness, though, like when you go into a museum, isn't that the one place where you'd fully expect just some crap to go down?
Well, I guess I can't say of any place.
Like, I'm not trying to call the museum workers a bunch of pansies, but you're working around stuff that's much older than you. And in my mind, logically, the older it is, it's got to be haunted if it's really old, right?
So if it's old, it's got to be haunted.
Yes, if I go into a museum and I see something from like 1750, haunted. It's got to be. There's no way that's not haunted, okay?
Wow.
Yep, that ship went
How
down.
do you know that, though? Because, what? So if it's something like a desk or a couch?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. We went when.
What if that couch stayed in a family that was filled? I mean, like,
yeah,
fully happy and full of love all the time.
I'm sure.
Nope, it's haunted.
Yeah, you ever seen the 1800s when they used to photograph their dead families all lined up? That couch probably held the dead bodies for some. I'm just saying that Tara and I went up to the Peabody Museum up in Salem, Massachusetts, and they have this whole section of like maritime artifacts.
Yeah.
And they have stuff from like ships from the era, right? And I'm thinking this thing's from like 1680. Ain't no way like 80 dudes died on that thing and it ain't haunted. Okay?
Well, that's a little bit a maritime ship versus a living room couch.
I'm still saying it's got to be. And even if it's not, I'm going to err on the side of caution and say that it is, just so I'm not surprised.
Huh.
That's just me.
I just saw, I mean, this is unrelated, but for the Supernatural, which we have to give a plug for that.
For what?
The new Supernatural Tendencies Paranormal podcast group on Facebook.
We'll do that very quick. You already half did it.
So anyway, well, before I do that, I just want to spill this little story.
Okay.
So, in me researching material to post in the group, one of the things that I researched was of course, the Lizzie Borden house, and which is now a bed and breakfast, and so you can stay in the Lizzie Borden house. But what really bothered me was, I was looking at the photographs and everything, and they had the couch that her father was killed on, the same couch. And I'm like, well, there's your bad juju.
So haunted or not haunted?
Well, that's definitely haunted.
All I'm saying is if this sucker was made in like the early 1800s, it's been passed down through like 30 people of the same family.
Well, yes, but that doesn't necessarily mean
oh man,
that
how many
haunted.
farts has that thing absorbed? There's no way that there's
we've taken a bad
some
turn.
Residual haunting from farts on that sucker.
So this is a good time to interject that if you, like us, love all things paranormal, extraterrestrial, cryptid, unexplained, unsolved, and mysterious.
And fart absorbing.
There will be no farts in the Facebook group.
I'll put them there.
But please feel free to join our new group on Facebook, the Supernatural Tendencies Paranormal Podcast Group.
Yes.
You will find a plethora, I love that word, a plethora of paranormal topics, videos, and all kinds of fun stuff. So head on over right now and join.
That's pretty extravagant of...
And invite all of your friends.
Of a plug. Yeah, that's the thing, is we do have kind of something we recorded on the onset as our outro each time, just as a reminder, kind of things like that. But we wanted to hit this because we have hit it once before, in that we want... if you have anybody of like-minded mentality who likes the creepy, the odd, and in the just weird, add them in. I mean, we like to have these conversations, and we want a group big enough that we can bounce ideas off of. We have a couple of ideas, and we can go ahead and throw one out right now, and obviously we can't really do it until we have enough material to do so. But we wanted to specifically target some of our trucker friends, preferably ones who have a lot of road time. Yep. Even more so, maybe some that have experienced like some extraterrestrials themselves. Maybe not directly, but like UFOs, anything like that. If you had a UFO experience, we know that truckers spend a lot of time, both day and night, going across the road. And with being by yourself, these may not be reported. So what we would love is, in any fashion that you deem necessary, whether it's by our email, our Facebook group, anything like that, Instagram, any one of the podcasting platforms that we're on, please give us a comment, get into contact. We would like to do a show of like a compilation of maybe some interviews of of really anybody, but our first one we wanted to do is we wanted to hit the truckers because it was kind of like a really good idea that we had thought of a lot of people who are kind of by themselves, maybe on the
Well, they
long,
spend
lonely
so
road.
much
Yeah.
time on the road.
Yep.
You know, of all people, chances are they would probably see them, have the greatest chance of having those experiences.
Yep.
So we would most definitely love to hear if you've had one of those experiences.
Yep.
We want to hear about it.
It maybe even indirectly, if you know someone in your family that's a trucker
Yes.
who have shared stories with you, even if they don't directly would like to contact us for them and see, and we'll put you on. I mean, whether or not you want to be recorded, if you don't want to be recorded, that's totally fine. Send us an email. We'll read it with your permission. In any way we can get this kind of show done, I think it's going to be a really interesting idea and to put into a segment. And then, like I said, we're coming up with a few more ideas as well, but we kind of need that content. So if you have any friends who might be interested in the group, please invite them. Again, we've said it before, but if you think they might be interested in the content overall with the podcast, let them know about the podcast on all the different podcasting platforms, whether they listen to us on a PC or their iPhone or what have you. If they don't know how to use those podcasting platforms, we're really getting into an era where that's really beneficial for people, especially if you like talk radio, to not have to listen to a lot of commercials or stuff that you don't want to. You could specifically find a podcast that they like. So if they don't know how to use those things, take your time out of your day. Show them how to get on, Apple Podcast, how to get on Stitcher. They may find a lot of stuff that they like. Do you have anything to add on that?
Share the knowledge.
Share the knowledge, yes. All right, back to dolls. That was a very long plug. Back to dolls. Did we wrap up on Mandy?
Well, I don't know. What's your overall take on the whole Mandy, proposed Mandy haunting?
To me, it would hold a lot more water if I knew whether or not they keep Mandy on display.
She is. Yes, she is
Oh,
still
okay.
on display in a glass case in the rear of the museum.
Okay, so do you know if they charge to get in this museum at all?
That I do not know.
Okay. So in my mind, where my thought process was going is if this got out of control for the curator, for the night guards, whoever involved with Mandy, to the point that they put her in a box on a shelf somewhere in the back where no one can see her.
Yeah.
That to me sounds a lot more
Believable.
because now it's not like an attraction. You're not making it like Robert, where you have them on t-shirts and stuff like that. Come see Robert, come pay the money to get in to see him, buy this t-shirt, buy this bumper sticker, tell your friends. This is something like it was being tortured. Okay?
Yeah.
Small story. I used to have this basset hound, and he was my buddy. His name was Frankie. Okay? One day, I believe you were babysitting for him, and I was with, we were out doing a show with the band, and you were babysitting Frankie for me.
Yes.
And I remember you calling me saying, something's wrong with Frankie. Something's wrong with Frankie. And I said, what do you mean what's wrong with Frankie? He's perfectly fine, when I left. And you said, no, you got to come home right now. Something's really wrong with Frankie. So I came in, and that dog, who is usually energetic and knocking me over,
Looked half dead.
He was not good.
No.
So we had to call the emergency vet, and we took him in. And do you remember what it was? It was some type of like dog sickness, dog flu. Yeah, it was something weird. So they had to keep him overnight. To cut the story way down, we came in the next day to get him, and they said it was going to be like $500 to get the dog. Obviously, we didn't have $500 just to dish out, so we're like, can we make payments? Well, this certain clinic said that we don't do that, and you need to pay it in full. And I said, or what? And they said, well, you're not going to be able to take your dog home. I said, you're going to give me my dog. I mean, we're going to come up with something here. I'm taking my dog home. Well, as I'm fighting with this front desk lady, the doctor who had seen us in the morning goes walking by, and she goes, those are Frankie's owners, right? And she goes, yep. She goes, go ahead and bring Frankie out. They're taking him home. And I go, okay. And the front desk girl goes, why? And the vet goes, that dog howled the whole night and kept up every single intern here. Nobody's in a good mood today, so they're taking that dog home. And I know that you can't box Frankie. To put him in a crate, even like to take him somewhere, that dog would howl and howl and howl, and they felt the brunt of that. So the idea is that would be the same thing with in this circumstance. Okay, if something's howling, you put it on display for me, like that's you're getting everybody to come see it.
Yeah.
If you put it in the back and you're howling, you're just trying to get rid of it. Why would you tell a story about it? What would be anything having to do with it?
But you know why? Okay, if it's that bad, and this, like, if you've seen pictures of this doll, which I will go in and post pictures, like I said, on our Facebook page.
Okay.
But, I mean, so this doll looks like it's been drug around by a cat for the last 10 years. You know what I mean? So, if you're having all of these issues with the doll, just take it outside and throw it in the trash. You know what I mean? Like, why would they go to, if they're all unnerved by the doll, the night watchmen are unnerved by it, visitors to the, are scared of this doll, why are you moving it to the bag? Just put it in a bag and toss it, landfill.
Throw it in the river.
Yeah, but, because, yeah. Do you see what I'm saying? Oh, no, that's mean, though. Especially, wow. Just wow.
You can put it in a bag and dispose of it. Well, it's creeping us out, man.
Wow.
What do you think of it then? How do you feel about it?
I don't know. I feel like you said about the story with Let Me Out. I feel like it's kind of the same story with this, that they have all this woman comes and, oh, here, and they take the doll, and then all this stuff happens, which, even in the lab, stuff is happening with a plastic bag, and it's everything that you would expect to happen is happening, and then how would you even possibly research this?
Mm-hmm.
How would you even possibly?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know what town this was.
Yeah.
But, I mean, unless you knew the woman and knew her name, how would you possibly research it? Are you going to take a picture of the doll and put a wanted ad in the paper? Who owned this, this doll? And, of course, she's not going to come forward because she lied.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
I get it. Plus, aside from that, there's usually like an acceptance process to an item.
Yeah.
Besides just the insect issue, is it of value or applicability to the museum?
Exactly. And if you had seen, I mean, this doll literally looks like a cat drug it around for 10 years. I mean, it's all tattered and broke and just, I mean, honestly, if I found this doll, even as much as I can appreciate antiques, I would be like, nah, that thing is trashed. Well, I mean, You don't
think the museum was trying to refurbish it?
Oh, no. And they haven't refurbished it. It is still in the same condition.
Well, now why would you? Well, touch it.
Well, maybe that's her whole problem. Maybe Mandy just wants a makeover. I don't know.
Could be.
But, and then if this is a true story, what happened when they tracked this mystery donator down?
Well, obviously she confessed to it.
We know you're lying. I just can picture bright lights being on her, like she's sitting on a stool.
They pulled the lamp head around and right on her.
We know it was you. And she's
Where were you?
All right. Let me tell you about the cellar. And did they threaten her? They're like, we're gonna lock you up, lady, because we're gonna hold you personally responsible for everything that's went down in this museum since you donated that doll.
We're gonna lock you up in the gift shop.
Chester died. His wife got an attack of gout. You know what I mean? Like, and you're going to pay for this.
The Canucks haven't won a cup since, 2004?
And it's all your fault. And she's like, no. No, I don't know. I don't want to outwardly say I'm not believing this story, because then what if Mandy telepathically hears me and then... I'm not willing to take that risk.
I heard you talking about me, and I came here to straighten you out.
And Robert's out in the living room. Shit.
I don't know. I guess we just all be thankful that Mandy wasn't a Leafs fan, because then just wouldn't be happy the past couple of years, right? Oh, anyway, so we are gonna post these pictures, and as per usual, we would love to hear what you think. And so after we post these pictures on all the platforms, so on our Facebook page, our Facebook group, and then across our show notes, hopefully whoever comes upon them will be able to see them. Give us your thoughts on which one of these you think is the creepiest.
Absolutely.
We'd like to say thank you one more time for hopping on board with us this week. If you have any comments, questions, critiques, or suggestions for new topics, please send us an email at supernaturaltendentiespodcast@gmail.com. We also encourage you to get over to our Facebook page at Supernatural Tendencies Podcast and go ahead and just smash that like button if you would. We are also available on Instagram if that's more to your liking. Please pass us around to your friends as well, where they can find us on Podbean, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, and most other major podcast platforms.
And remember, if you're having any type of paranormal activity or extraterrestrial contact, I offer private coaching online via Skype or Facebook Messenger to assist you with those issues. Feel free to visit me at ChristyJohnsonSadler.com for contact information.
Till next time, this has been Alex.
And Christy.
See you later.